Hello and welcome to another episode of the Citizens of Lorcana podcast, a podcast where we invite you to be part of their world. Today, we are back on the road to Vegas as we break down the meta. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another week. And it's a big week because we have Vegas and Birmingham at the end of this week. So last week, we took a moment to review the Lorecast, and today we are here to break down the Vegas Birmingham meta. And today we have the perfect person to break it all down, namely one Kevin of Lorcana Goons. Kevin, how are you today?
Hey, what's up, guys? What's up, my fellow Lorcana Goons? I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me, Jared and James, citizens of Lorcana. Feels really good to be here, and I'm just as excited for this weekend's DLC as everybody else. DLCs.
Yeah,
I know, super excited.
2 on a weekend again. It's going to be great. Melee is going to be awesome, right?
yeah. A lot of news, a lot of cards to look at, a lot of lists to look at.
Oh, jeez. All right.
Hold on. But before we get in,
yes.
I just want to say this. So when you first got on the scene, your whole thing was Lorcana Goons, okay? And my thing was Flounder, all right? So in the very beginning, I didn't like you so much because I'm like, no, it shouldn't be Goons, even though, okay, I admit, Goons is a better option. Flounder's like, he's my guy, so I had to rep Team Flounder. Anyway, I just want you to know, bad blood is gone.
No, yeah, we could all be Flounders and we could all be Goons. It's evolved so much since then. You know what I mean? So whenever I see the 1-2-2 characters, I definitely think of the first chapter days. And whenever I see a Flounder, I definitely think of Citizens of Lorcana. I think of Jared's. I literally think of every card that you used to put Flounder in, and you would do it so much for like chapter 1 and 2. And I used to like scroll through Twitter like during my work shifts and just be like, and then just kind of be like, dude, I can't wait for this game to come out. Because that was even before the game came out. At that point, when you were already posting the Flounders.
Oh man, yes, Those were the days. And I've come to accept even just like generic vanilla cards, Goons, but especially the one drops, Goons.
Right.
So.
But yeah, they're still Flounders to us too. They're Flounders and Goons. Heck yeah.
All right, so we're gonna get into this because the meta is gonna be a long, difficult conversation. But obvious disclaimer that we, meaning Jared and I think, mainly have no idea what the meta will be. And we're just making predictions based on recent tournaments, general trends, what we see people playing. Kevin, you do this every week in your channel, the Lorcana Goons. So how do we even begin to wrap our heads around what really appears to be a wide open meta?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember, like, if you're going to be playing the DLCs, or let's say you're even just playing your local tournaments this weekend, set champs, that even though there is like data behind what the meta is, like, expect the unexpected. For sure, because I've been able to play 2 DLCs, and I've been playing the set championships. And Southern California has a pretty competitive scene, and no matter how many videos I do on deck lists and like meta reports and stuff like that, I always get caught off guard by something. There's always somebody in the room with the spice that you haven't seen yet, something that they haven't even posted online yet. And sometimes it does catch you off guard. Sometimes I want to be that person. I took Blue Mufasa to a set champs one time. People were like, what is going on? And that was really cool. But and we saw it in the first DLC. We saw Joshua Polt take first place with yellow purple Mufasa. And, I think like he made a very good meta call, so I think it's important to remember that, like, while you'll see a lot of numbers of like this color pattern doing well here and this color pattern doing well there, you can definitely see results with your own personal spice. And not only that, if you're going to play one of those meta decks, be prepared to run into somebody's personal spice, and it is important to also, I think, look at as many lists as you can, even of non-meta decks. Like, for example, if you're going to play in that DLC, you might run into something like Amethyst Steel, and you never know if it's going to be an Amethyst Steel control deck, maybe an Amethyst Steel aggro deck, like a list that I saw on Lorcana Villain one time or something. And even just having that information of like, oh, I kind of recognize those cards being played, like you can kind of during the game piece together what deck they're really playing, and I think that goes a long way too. So yeah, I think expect the unexpected, but also pun intended, be prepared for as much as you can, even for those non-meta decks. I actually had to play Josh Pult in top 16 of the Atlanta, and we got to share deck lists, obviously, and I read his deck list, and I was like, Judge, how much time do I have to read this deck list? Because I've never seen a deck like this before in my life, dude. It was the first time in Lorcana that I ever had to ask my opponent, what does this card do? Because he was playing Fairy Godmother, and the judge, shout out Manicor, he was judging our match, and he had to pull up on the phone the Fairy Godmother, the one that exerts a character when you play Cinderella, because I knew the effect, but I didn't know the stats. So I was like, ooh, I have to like really watch out for this. Is it a 4 drop? Is it a 3 drop? And he had to pull it up real quick. And I feel like had I been just a little bit more prepared for something like that, it could have made all the difference. But then I think, like, who was I going to play test Yellow Purple against?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so
no
you
one
gotta,
was playing that.
Yeah, you got to respect those decks, though. You got to, so if you have like people at your locals who play decks like that, like, yeah, get into their brain, see what kind of decks they're playing, because it will help you at the DLC level, during Swiss and even during Top Cut. You never know.
Awesome.
All right, so before we hop into this, I just have to ask you. I have been racking my brains trying to figure out what deck I'm going to bring. I had a deck that I practiced a lot, but the closer we get to Vegas, the more I'm like, maybe this isn't the best deck. Maybe I should do this. And then I'm like, what is the deck that beats Steel Song and Ruby Sapphire? And I don't think there's any one deck that is like anti to everything. Like, I really think it's Paper, Rock, Scissor. Okay, but general advice. I know this is coming out like literally the day before the DLC. How does somebody lock in on a deck? Is it just what you're most comfortable with, or what advice do you have on that front?
Yeah, that's like the main thing, I think. Like, play what you're most comfortable with, even regardless if it doesn't have like the best matchup against this deck, or if it doesn't have like an unwinnable matchup. I hear that advice from a lot of people too. Like, play what you know how to play the best, and then learn your matchups. I think those are like the top things. Learning your matchups is really important, because you could have a deck like Ruby Amethyst, for example, and everybody wants to play the curve on Ruby Amethyst. You want to go Turnabog, Flynn, Sisu, Castle, right? But 90% of the time, that's not going to happen. Like, your opponent, you're not playing against a nobody. You're playing against somebody who wants to beat you just as badly. So they're going to stop your Flynns, they're going to stop your Sisus, and you have to know the color matchups so that you know when to ink certain cards, so you know when to play certain cards, like how valuable other cards are in that matchup as opposed to others. I say Ruby Amethyst because that's the deck that I'm most comfortable with. When I played it in set 2, I just kind of fell in love with the concept of like rabbits and goats, and I stand by this. I think Merlin Rabbit is the best card in Lorcana, 100%. I think that's just an insane card. I can't believe that Merlin Rabbit still exists. I think that card's really good. I'm surprised it's not eroded. But yeah, I would really just say pick a deck that you feel very safe with, and really just learn the matchups, and kind of ask yourself, how am I losing? Whenever you lose a game, kind of backtrack on what you inked. Every time I'm playing a game with friends, I will ink face up as long as I can, and then whenever, even mid game, like a turn after, if I lose like control of the game, I'll look at my ink and be like, should I have kept this card on my hand? Like, would this have made a difference? And then I'll ask my friend, like, give me a sec, let me think about this. And then I won't go back on the game state, but I'll start thinking about, maybe this is the turn that I lost the match. So yeah, in terms of picking a deck, definitely what you're most comfortable with, and try not to change like last minute. Like, I always have friends who they change their deck entirely like the day before, and then they don't really see the results they want to, because of that, I feel. So go with your gut. Like, if you've been practicing a deck, and but you're seeing all this meta information, don't let it psych you out. Just make sure you're practicing those matchups from that meta information, I think.
Somebody tried planting a Blurple deck seed in my brain, and I got a fever for like a day and a half, where I was just like, man, this is the one. But you know what? I've been playing Amethyst, Emerald, and that's what I'm comfortable with. So yeah, I'm locking that in. So with that being said, James, and I'm assuming Beth as well, has prepared another slide deck with what we think will be the top decks at this weekend's DLCs. So James, why don't you take it away here?
All right, so this is kind of in a little bit of an order in what we expect the top few decks to be, and then the rest. So the rest is not in any specific order. But of course, first up, we're expecting to see this a ton. and it is Steel Song. It is considered one of the top 2 decks in the current meta. And really, it's considered top because it's just being played the most. That and Ruby Sapphire, which we'll look at next. This is Brendan DeCandio's version that he won the Charlie's Collectible Show 10K like about 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's changed it a little bit since for an SGC con like a week later. But this is the basics that a lot of people are going with. So let's talk about this a little bit. I mean, this is good into virtually every deck, right? I mean, it's powerful, right?
Yeah, this deck is definitely scary. I think the Amber Steel is extremely threatening because Whole New World Whole New World is the only card right now in Lorcana that can disrupt your entire mulligan, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. Because when the mulligan process in Lorcana is really valuable, you're able to just put as many cards as you want back and kind of build your hand. And in a lot of strategies, you're building the perfect hand. And when your opponent just wipes your perfect hand, they're eliminating they're potentially like 4 to 7 cards from your deck that are gone for the rest of the game. And if you got the best cards from your deck in your first hand, they completely just ruined your strategy. So I think that is one of the key strengths in Amber Steel. Like, a lot of players will freak out if they lose their turn 3 Fishbone Quill, or if they lose their Flynn Sisu combo. You ruin their strategy. So now they have to think on the fly, how do I win now? And some people don't know how to handle that situation. My only qualm with this deck is that the Sapphire Ruby matchup feels like an uphill battle. That's the only issue I have with this deck. Other than that, though, it has such a strong matchup against anything you throw at it, and any rogue deck, any anti-meta deck, any even tier 1 deck, like Mufasa decks or the blue-green cow decks. So yeah, Amber Steel handles it very well. It's just that Whole New World, man. Being able to it's like one of the few decks that is aggro but also like tempo based.
Yeah, and the thing is that there's only 2 cards from Shimmering Skies in this, so it just got the 2-card update, and those were 2 very powerful cards. Of course, Naveen, the legendary, allows you to play Whole New World for free. So the card that you normally would have to sing for now comes out when you just play Naveen, which is even more value. And Pete, the stop all actions on the next turn for your opponent is so limiting for your opponent that you can play your own actions and then stop them from playing theirs and build up that much more advantage. So I think that's why this came back, because previously in the last couple of sets, Steel Song had taken like a back seat. It wasn't a tier 1 really. So I think that's what we're seeing here. I did have a question. Now that we know that this is what a lot of people are looking at and focused on, if you want to play this, because mirror matches are tough in Steel Song, what would you do to help yourself in the mirror match? And my first thought is get some item removal.
Yeah, people aren't playing Benja anymore. I notice people don't really play I'll find on my Platinum or Rise of the Titans. I do like that Simba Floodborn card. I do forget exactly what his name is, but he's a shift 6. He's a 6 cost, shift 4, I believe. And when you play him, you can pop an item or a location. I like that card. I would play that card because it does everything you need. You don't have to play Benja and Rise of the Titans anymore. You can just play that Simba. And if you have Lantern, then ideally you play that Simba a little earlier. It's just kind of whatever against like the Sapphire decks, because it doesn't make your Sapphire deck. It doesn't make your Sapphire matchup any that much better. Because they're gonna be popping the popsicle before you could even get that Simba off. But I think for like mirror matches, item removal would be pretty important. I think maybe even adding some extra like a 2 damage removal, like Baboom, maybe not Fire the Cannons because it's uninkable, but something like that to eliminate cards like Robin Hood or Piglet or Cinderella on curve, because a lot of times like the mirror match feels like a tempo game sometimes. Whoever can build the most momentum before the Whole New World comes down can kind of really take control of the game, because you're able to flood characters with 3 willpower, and a lot of the steel stuff does 2 damage only, except for Zeus. So maybe even throwing a 4th Zeus in your deck would help a lot in the mirror match. Things like that. I do feel though, like the problem is though, if you cater a little bit too much to trying to win the mirror match, it doesn't make your Sapphire Ruby matchup any better. And like I really feel like you, when you're deck building or when you're making choices for a DLC, it's a little more beneficial to ask yourself, how am I losing and how do I fix that? So if you're not necessarily losing the mirror match, or if there's not anything in your deck that's like losing you the mirror match, but you are losing the Ruby Sapphire matchups, which are the harder ones, then I would maybe just try and cater a little bit more to that, and just probably focus a little bit more on like your ink choices or your gameplay style strategy when you're playing the mirror match. Because I do think that sometimes it is out of your hand, but sometimes like it is entirely in your control for mirror matches, but sometimes they just draw the cards faster than you. You know what I mean? And that could also be a thing.
And this deck is can brick pretty easy as well with all those uninkables, so you got to watch out.
Yes, that's a big issue.
I found taking out the baby cards, baby Cinderella, baby Robin Hood, preventing those shifts. If you can, you got to make it happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The fire the cannons, yeah, I'm telling you. So if you find yourself losing the mirror match, maybe add the fire the cannons, so you could stop the shifts before they come down.
There you go. All right. Anything else we want to say about Steel Song?
It's a great deck, and I know that I did say that it does feel like an uphill battle against the Ruby Sapphire matchup. And I know Jared, you mentioned that it does feel kind of like a rock paper scissors kind of situation. But I've always said this, and I'll stand by this since the first chapter. I think Lorcana is a game where although we have our meta decks, it's more, the metas and the tiers are more based off of what you're expected to see, not necessarily power level. I think chapter 2 was the only format where we had like a tier 1 deck, which was Ruby Amethyst in my opinion. But I definitely feel like even though like Amethyst Steel has a very quote unquote hard matchup against Ruby Sapphire, you put it in the hands of a great player like Brendan Candio, for example, and you can get first place. We saw it get second place at Bologna, I believe, and it was playing Amethyst Steel Harp, and nobody expected that because it was like Ruby Sapphire everywhere. You know what I mean? And if you just if you know how to play the deck, I strongly believe that matchups are only so much of the game. So do not let the idea of your bad matchups or even your best matchups get that sway you so much into how you play the game, or even what deck you decide to play, because at the end of the day, my opponent has to know how to play the deck, and if they don't play it better than I do, then I have a way better advantage, matchup or not. It's more about advantages and then really trying to execute that advantage.
Nice. Yeah, basically what we're saying is that, like you said, the when Ruby Amethyst was the top deck, it was beating everything basically.
Yeah.
And now we're not having decks that beat everything all the time ever. I mean, you're looking at 60% win rates, or lost where you lose maybe a little less than half the time. So it's not like it's overpowering. It's just not favored.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let's go on to the next top deck, which is the Sapphire Ruby deck. There's 2 versions of this. This is what's known as the Sisu on Ice version. And this deck can be built a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of cards you can take in and out in 1s and 2s and back and forth. I mean, this is all going to be a lot of personal choice, but the core is basically ramp and then destroy your opponent until you can get the dime out and win. It's the basic premise of it, right?
Yeah, this deck feels like a one-turn kill deck sometimes, for lack of a better term, because of the lucky dime situation. Sometimes your opponent just has 3 ice blocks, 2 popsicles, a fishbone, and when they drop dime Tamato, you lose in 2 turns. It's such a crazy deck, and I would even go as far as to say that this might be the most powerful deck of the format. Not necessarily like tier 0 or nothing, but it just has the strongest cards. It has the strongest cards, and sometimes I feel like it's like sometimes I watch my opponent just top deck Flavor Sham on me, and I'm like, how do they all do it? How do they all do that?
Yeah, and there's just so much removal, from baby Sisu to big Sisu to Be Prepared to Maleficent to Madame Medusa. This deck, and it's at my locals, it's everywhere. I don't know what it's like at your guys' locals, but this is definitely a deck that I expect to see a lot at the DLCs this weekend.
1,000%. I do see it a lot at my locals, but I feel like as of lately, there's a little bit more Amber Steel. So, but this deck hard counters Amber Steel and makes the matchup a lot easier. And since people are really on the Amber Steel wave, I get the feeling people are going to switch to this for the DLC Vegas. I think we'll see a lot of this. So, but yeah, I think you're guaranteed to at least play one of these either at your locals or your DLC.
No thanks.
Yeah, and that Vision of the Future, that card is actually sneaky good. I wasn't sure when set releases were coming out, but it's proved to be a very good card.
Yeah, when it's funny. I have like a precedent with cards. And I tell this to everybody. Whenever my opponent plays a card and it makes me roll my eyes, I automatically know that's a good card. And Visions of the Future does that to me. Whenever my opponent's like, we're both top decking because of the way the match is going, and they're like, oh, Visions. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, yeah. So I just that card is good. That's a very good card. Lucky Dime is crazy. I do have an issue with this deck personally, because of the amount of uninkables it plays. I don't want to play it. I just me when I play Lorcana, there's like certain things that run through my mind if I lose, right? And one of those things is, am I playing too many uninkables? And with this deck, you unfortunately have to play a lot of uninkables. So those are just questions I don't like running into after I lose. So this is not a deck for me. So that's another thing too. I think if you're the one when it goes back to kind of picking your deck, pick something that makes you comfortable, not just when you're playing the game, but like something that makes you comfortable with in losing. You know what I mean? And so I tend to always stick to 60 cards, because if I lose a game, I'm like, let me see if I would have drawn my next card if it would have been the card I needed or something. And if it is, then I'm just like immediately like, you know what? I can't play 61. And there it is. There's the proof. That's whether or not that's true, because we've seen plenty of results from players who play more than 60. It's more of like just a personal thing. Like, if I'm gonna lose with a deck and I don't want to get like tilted during a tournament, like I gotta make sure I'm as comfortable as I possibly am. So if you get like the tilted because you notice I'm drawing too many uninkables, maybe this deck might not be for you, because I do feel like if you're playing a tournament that is 9 rounds, you gotta stay calm and collected.
Yeah.
Well said.
All right, so the next version. Let's go over this one, Jared.
I like this version. This version's cool. This is one of those spicy decks where I'm like, oh man, like yeah, I need to know the deck lists. I'm glad I know these deck lists, because when I start seeing my opponent play cards like Scuttle, I'm gonna immediately know, oh, he's playing the Queen version. So maybe I need to value this Medusa a little bit more, because I'm gonna have outs to Queen now. And I noticed that this build doesn't have Prince John, but we saw that Prince John version also from that first place of that big tournament. It was a Forbidden Mountain player, and so that too. There's like an extra little. There's like a sub item version that plays Prince John now. And then yeah, so I play Clarabelle in the green blue deck, and I'll play it at locals, right? So when I see this version around, I know, okay, my Clarabelle is going to be popping their Maurice's workshops, but if I'm playing the other red blue version, then my Clarabelle wants to pop maybe their ice blocks or something else. You know what I mean? But in this deck, the Maurice workshop goes a very long way, so I definitely want to use my Clarabelle for those. I think knowing the list is really important for that reason too.
Yeah, those ice blocks are brutal when they get going.
Yeah, just like you were saying, item removal. Like maybe item removal might be kind of important for this DLC. I was already thinking of, I don't play like Steel, but I was thinking like if I did play Steel, how would I play it? And I'm pretty sure you play Benja, so I think like Amethyst Steel might be a cool meta call, because you could like play Benja, bounce Benja. I think that's the problem with this item deck, is that it is a little bit. It does feel like the combo pieces are a little bit too demanding. You need multiple combo pieces, but when this deck gets going, I feel like it's even stronger than the average Sisu Ice Block build. You know what I mean? Because Maurice's Workshop, you just start drawing cards, like infinite cards. It's crazy. Oh, you're muted, Jared.
Yeah, it really does. I don't know if you've ever watched the Hobbies and Happiness multiplayer, but Dan loves to play these types of decks in those Maurice's workshops. He pretty much just has like 5 cards left in his deck by the end of the game. So anyway, but this is similar to the deck that won in the DLC in Bologna, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, this was put out by Moyen, so it's going to be good.
I like the sheriff in there too. The sheriff of Nottingham, like a big four quester for almost no reason, especially since you're getting a bunch of free items off the queen. And if you're playing this deck too right now, it gets even better in set 6 because of Oswald, and stuff like that. You know, and we're also getting the inventor synergy with the big hero 6 cards. So maybe there's something in there that plays really well. So yeah, I like the idea of this deck. I have a friend who, so my friend was playing this deck for a very long time, and then literally the 2 days before the DLC in Texas, Fort Worth, he just decided to play the regular, quote unquote, regular version. And he didn't do too well. And I kept telling him, like, you should have played your item version. You should have played your item version, you know? And then literally a week later, it was when the item version won Bologna. And he was like, no way.
That's a bummer. All right. So let's go on to the next one. Which one is it, Jared?
This is this is the Dan Regal Ruby Amethyst deck.
I had to build it off of I had to go to Inkdex and copy off Inkdex.
Gotcha. This is actual. No, I'm not. But this is you're running a Ruby Amethyst, right, Kevin?
Yes. This
is pretty similar.
Reliable. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
So you're the expert of this deck. Why don't you take it away?
Yeah, this is probably the most standard of standard lists that you can find online. I think Kendall Burdett is like the godfather of RubyM. He definitely is very active on social media, sharing how he performs with the deck and then sharing his list, which is really cool. I know that he played this exact list for SCG Con day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And on Sunday, he said he changed one Medusa to a Tremaine. So he was playing 2 Medusa, 1 Tremaine split. And in general, I think this is the best deck. I think this is the best deck in Lorcana because it plays the best card in Lorcana. It plays Merlin Rabbit. But you were kind of talking about how you feel like every deck has a bad matchup and stuff like that. And I personally feel like Ruby Amethyst has this reputation for being like a 50-50 deck where like you don't have any good matchups, but I think that also means you don't have any bad matchups either. So I think if you can master this deck, like people like Kendall Burdett or Lucas Serrano, for example, those are like the people I look at when I think of RubyM, or also Alberto Sanchez, the guy from Texas, and I think he got like top 8 at Atlanta. They pilot the deck to the T. And they really showcase that you can turn that 50-50 matchup into a 60-40, into a 70-30 in your favor if you just play it correctly. And or even like Ed, the person who won the DLC in Fort Worth, he won with RubyM during a Bucky format, and everybody swore that the Bucky matchup was unwinnable with Ruby Amethyst. You know what I mean? But it really just takes a certain type of player to really crack the meta. You know, in the sense of like of knowing how to play a deck. So I do think this is the best deck. This is my favorite deck to show people how to play Lorcana 2. Actually, it's one of the most budget friendly decks in the game, so I think that's really important. And on top of that, it does everything. It does everything to teach someone how to play. It has characters, it has actions, songs, it has removal, locations. You have characters that bounce. You have passive lore. So I think it's a really good like deck to teach someone how to play with as well. So it's really fun. And just, I don't know, there's something about it. So it just flows very nice. It's the most consistent deck, I think, too. And sometimes it's the most forgiving deck. Merlin or Rabbit lets you win the game sometimes when you shouldn't have won that game. You know, because you just get to draw cards and then you draw into Goat. Same thing with Merlin Goat. You know, sometimes you're just at 15 lore and you draw a Goat, and then you draw another Goat, and then you draw a Snake. You know, that's what I like about the deck too. So I think I think it's a great deck. I just think that you have to respect how to play certain matchups, because you're not always gonna open up Broom, Flynn, Sisu. You know, sometimes you open up 0/1 drops and you can still win. You just got to figure out how.
So looking at these 2 locations here, I've seen a lot of debate between Library and the Queen's Castle. What are your thoughts on these locations?
Yeah, I actually think that locations are like in a weird spot right now, because so many people respect them, right? So like when you're playing the mirror match for Ruby Amethyst, so many players will just hold a Maui and or hold like a combination of Crab and Fox against you because they're waiting for you to drop that castle, right? So then the thinking becomes, well, I'm just going to ink my castle, right? But like castle's so important in matchups where you can't just ink all 4. Sometimes it needs to be like your closer after a B prep. So you really have to like know how to use the locations. And then library was just introduced in this set, so I feel like a lot of people don't give it as much credit as castle, which is why you'll see people not play it at all, or you'll see some people like Kendall playing it in 2. I'm personally playing 4 right now. I'm playing 4 and 4, 4 castle, 4 library, because I think that library is just as strong as castle. And I haven't decided which one I'm gonna cut, because I'm at 61 cards and I need to play 60, and I think it's going to be one of those that I have to cut. And I haven't decided which one it is. I think they're both equally as strong. The thing about library that I like right now is that and then Kendall said it too on Twitter. He described it perfectly. You either play library or Maleficent, and library has a higher ceiling. Meaning that like library is going to be able to do a lot more for you in a lot of different game states, whereas Maleficent won't. And especially right now where Amber Steel is such a strong card, playing a 2 willpower character with 2 strength on turn 3 is not good. And even against ice block Sisu, it's not a good card to play when they can just ice block uninkable Sisu you, and you lose your Maleficent. And oftentimes you need that 3-drop card because you want to sing with friends on the other side. That was kind of the reasoning for playing Maleficent, but it's really not worth it anymore. I think on turn 3 I'm better off playing a crab on tempo, or a Sisu, or even just a fox or something. And on turn 4 I find myself usually playing a library, move a character to library, start questing, and start being aggressive, because library has 8 willpower. And on turn 3, there's not that many cards in Lorcana, or not that many game states in Lorcana that can clear 3 willpower on turn 3 or turn 4. I've also noticed that because I'm doing that on turn 4, on turn 5, sometimes I can play Queen's Castle to follow up, and that's so much pressure, move a character there. And then turn 6, my favorite play is just Rabbit Snake, because oftentimes I don't play Rabbit on the field like willy nilly. Like oftentimes, especially in mirror matches or in other matchups, I really like to save the Rabbit to have like a bounce character, so I can keep looping it over and over again. But what's cool about library and castle is that now you're able to play those on your like turn 3, 4, 5 before you get to that turn 6 to loop your Rabbit. So your opponent invests a lot of cards into the board to clear locations. You start bouncing your rabbits, and then whoop-de-doo, turn 7, I be prepared you, because you've been playing all your characters to clear my locations. So I do think that they're both equally as good, but it's gonna have to be 4 and 3 for me. You have to play, pick which one you think is gonna be more reliable for you. But I think in this package, because you are playing 4 Chernabog and 4 Broom, I might even go 4 Library and then 3 Castle, because they have a lot more synergy.
Yeah,
that's sneaky good. The thing that I like about the library lately is like, if my opponent has a baby Sisu out and I know we're coming up on turn 6, I like to just drop the library down and move all my 2 cost, 2 willpower and less characters into the library. And so at least I get some value out of it that way.
Yeah, like being able to do that is actually crazy. You say you're playing Emerald Amethyst. Emerald Amethyst, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are you playing it more like aggressively, like with like Merfolks and Flynns and stuff like that?
No, I'm playing more of the Earl Meister list.
Oh, okay. Like, or you're playing Bonsais and Rafikis and stuff like that.
Yep.
So yeah, you can move them there. That's really good. And you have the Clarabelle shift targets too. You can move them there. One of my favorite plays also is you can oftentimes play library, move multiple characters to the library, and then you start trading and then you start drawing cards. And then that 3-drop card is already gaining you more cards than Maleficent would have. You know what I mean? So that's also important too. Like that's the ceiling that Kendall's talking about. Like you can really do a lot more with the card. And again, it's a location, so the moment it hits the board, your opponent's on a clock. It only gets you 1 lore, but I mean, Spellbook used to only get us 1 lore, and sometimes Spellbook was that card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably my favorite deck. I think it does the most. Flynn Sisu is just unbeatable sometimes. B prep is just a big reset button. I'm not sure how I feel about the shiftable Sisu. I'm not playing shift Sisu personally, but I am playing 4 B prep and then 2 Medusa, 1 Tremaine, and I'm considering playing even 1 B King. I just haven't gotten that far yet, and what I'm gonna take out. But I also really like Elsa Fitzspirit in this deck. I think Elsa Fitzspirit goes a very long way against your Emerald matchups, and Emerald is one of the harder matchups for this deck because you have a tough time just clearing discard characters or dealing with Diablo.
Right. Like you said, it's not great into anything, but it's also not horrible into anything. So you got to just pick the right spots for those little tech cards.
Yep.
Let's head on into the deck we were just talking about, the Earl Meister Emerald Amethyst. And Jared, this is your deck, or at least close to it, right?
Yes. So I've been watching Earl Meister play this. He goes on Twitch. He's been playing other decks lately, and I just love this deck for how versatile it is, because it has all sorts of options. You have the Shift Clarabelle, you have the Shift Ursula, and the thing that I love about this deck is playing against Steel Song and getting the Ursula, Deceiver out and taking a whole new world out and then bouncing her back with Rabbit or Snake and doing it all over again until they have nothing but uninkables or no songs in their hands. If you can really rip out, the whole new worlds out of their hands, then you have a pretty good chance of winning. But again, for all the same reasons that Kevin was talking about liking Ruby Amethyst, this deck has a lot of the same things because it has Rabbit, has Fox, it has Goat, it has Friends on the Other Side, has Crab, has the Library, the Queen's Castle. The other one that I love is the Emerald Chromacon, because a lot of times, especially when I'm playing against Ruby players, if they do have like Sisu that comes out, you have the Ruby Amercon, and you can immediately bounce their Sisu back to their hand if there's a character with 2 willpower or less on there. So there's just a lot of versatility in this deck, and this isn't my exact list that I'm running with, but it's very similar, and it's been a lot of fun to play with. As much as I love Sapphire, I really don't love playing Ruby Sapphire, and Sapphire Amethyst just wasn't quite there for me. But this deck is fun, and it's competitive in just about every match I found. Blue still is a struggle, but otherwise it's pretty competitive.
Yeah, this deck is really good. My LGS doesn't have too many green and purple players. The only person that plays, there's like 2. One person plays it like this, and the other person still plays it kind of like aggressively with like Merfolk and Flynn. But they both play Emerald Chromacon, and every time it drops, every time it hits the board, I just have to do like unthinkable math.
Eye roll.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. It's the eye roll. It's the eye roll test. It passes the eye roll test. It's just unthinkable. So I feel like you can't play too many of this card, unfortunately. People aren't really playing item removal, so maybe you just play one. But yeah, man, like it's a card that's hard to play around. I remember the first time I interacted with it, I had to think like, if I challenge this, then he's gonna bounce this. But what if he bounces this instead? And I had to read it and be like, oh, he can bounce his own cards too. And I'm like, so then I had to think like, okay, so I literally just have to challenge it and see what he picks, and then go from there. And one of the issues too was that like sometimes like after like turn 2 or 3 of it being on the board, it slips my mind, and then I get carried away. I challenge with something, and he goes Chromacon, and I'm like, ooh, I forgot. It's been there the whole game. That card, it's a really good card. This deck is really good. I just feel like I would need to personally practice a lot with this deck, or maybe play with the numbers a little bit, because this list in particular is playing a lot of 1-ofs and 2-ofs, and that's not bad or nothing. It's just you have to learn how to keep track of that if you're playing a deck like this, because it could be really crucial if you ink your 1 Cloud Kicker. You might be in a scenario where you need to draw that card, and maybe you forgot. You inked it, and you're digging for your Cloud Kicker or something, and you don't have any, or your Quickies, for example, or your 1 cast. So it plays a lot of 1-ofs and 2-ofs, and that's something that I would be mindful of. Same thing with like any deck that plays even 4-ofs, like Goats, for example. When I play Ruby Amethyst, I tend to really I've learned how to count how many Goats and Bouncers I'm inking, and Castles. Those are the 4 cards I remember how many I've inked: Goat, Fox, Rabbit, and Castle. Sorry, Fox, Snake, and Castle. And I think mastering that is also really important. Memorizing what you've inked throughout the whole game. It's hard to obviously do everything, but even like the important cards, in my opinion, like Goat, so like, okay, I have 2 Goats in the deck left, and I have 20 cards left. I have a really good chance of seeing them. It makes a big difference if you've inked all 3 or even 4. I've played matches before where my opponent's digging for Goat, and I remember I've seen them ink all 4, but they don't, and they're just kind of hoping.
To your point about the Chromacon, when we were at D23, I was playing Pack Rush with Steve Warner, and I had put a Chromacon out on the table, and he's like, "Oh boy, there's one of the best cards in the set."
Wow!
So,
oh wow! There you go.
Like
confirmation.
That speaks to the power of it.
And I think one of the things this deck does, which you mentioned, the bouncing and the 1-ofs, is you can use that Chromacon when they challenge into your stuff to bounce your very important 1-ofs back to your hand and reuse them. So that, like I said, the Kit, the Ana, those things are very important, and there's only 1 of them. So definitely make use of that Chromacon, not just to get rid of your opponent's stuff.
Yeah, I actually, in my list, I have 2 Chromacons in there because I think it's just that good.
Nice.
Like, I want to see it in my
Right.
matches. So.
Yeah, in fact, Kevin, when I was playing, I was trying this deck out also recently, and the person I was playing against, once the Chromacon came down, they were just like, "Oh no, the math! I have to do the math. There's so much more math now."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's so much more thinking that goes into the game once that card hits the board. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next deck, and that is the Emerald Amber, the dreaded discard deck. Now that Bucky is gone, discard is still a thing, and this one, well, this the top 16 in Italy, but this one, the previous version won in was it Toronto?
Yeah, Toronto.
Yeah.
Yep. Interesting that this deck also only has like 2 new cards from Shimmering Skies. But it does make a big difference. Your welcome is there for extra location removal, where this deck didn't have location removal. So now you can't just slap castle or library on this deck anymore. Like I wanted to. So it does make that strategy a little bit different. And then displaying the new Anna, the diplomatic queen, I believe she's called. That card's really cool. Kind of. At first, I didn't think it was going to be too powerful, but the versatility in it is crazy. This deck is crazy. It's the only deck that has a one-sided board wipe, and I think that's really important to respect.
And they can sing it.
Yes, yeah, singing it is wild, and they play ward characters, so it's very easy to sing. If you have like a Prince John and Muses already on board, you just need to have one character survives, and then it's going to be able to sing Under the Sea. Or if you have the Shift Kita, this one's not playing the Kita Goons or the Kita Flounder, for lack of a better term, but that's a really good combo too. I think this deck has a good matchup against everything, but a bad matchup against itself, because sometimes when I play this deck, I just draw the worst hands ever.
Yeah, this thing can fail pretty easily, right? If you just don't get the right hand, or in the case of against some of Ruby, if they can last long enough to get to their be prepared and wipe your board, then you have a hard time resetting.
Yeah, like the recovery for this deck is really slow, so you have to really like play your outs right, play your cards right. It's more of a control deck, because you're really controlling the hand, and then you're getting your opponent to play into your board wipe, or into just your like hitting cove or something, because hitting cove does a lot too. I like hitting cove. And then Diablo is just crazy. Like so many decks are just not respecting Diablo nowadays. I feel like people don't really want to play Emerald, or they don't want to play Diablo for whatever reason. But Diablo plus Cove just turns off Brawl, and then Cove makes all your ice blocks useless. But you need to have 2 ice blocks basically. That's play around 1 Cove.
Yeah, you don't see Diablo around much anymore. And I will say those muses are sneaky good. I mean, to have the ability to sing a song, and a lot of times what I see people doing is bouncing their aerial back to their hand so I can play her back down and search for another song. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, I like that this deck plays that many songs. I personally think that Ariel is a very good card, but I hate playing Ariel and whiffing and not hitting a song. Yeah. I have trauma from chapter 1, and I think after that, I just like, you know what? Maybe I can't play Ariel anymore.
Oh man, yeah. This is. I think this might be, because discard is such a. I mean, honestly, it's an unfun form of a deck to play against. So this might be the most hated deck in the meta currently, especially if you're playing against it. if you're playing it, it's not unfun at all.
You probably like it. You're probably having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
all right. Next up, we have Amethyst Steel. Have you played this one, Jared? You ever tested this one out?
No, not too much.
I haven't only played it a little bit. So this is the new version with Pete, of course, the new super powerful card out of the new set. This is a fun version that includes the bell from last set, Chien Po. So you can get some damage down on that Chien Po and then move it with bell when you play bell, and just take out so many things easily and get the board built up and bounce stuff that you need to bounce. This is a fun deck. I don't know if it's it's not really positioned well in the current meta to be a really strong deck, right?
I think it has potential. Whether like its position might just be based off of matchups. I feel like if you pair it into a lot of the Ruby Amethyst or the Amber Steel, maybe we even just split 1-1 with your red blue matchup. You could really take the cake with this deck, because it's really scary to play characters that quest for 2, and Lawrence, me, Bell, like they're all just very threatening characters, and they have to be respected. And then it's playing the best locations in the game, Castle Library. You know what I mean? I would definitely be weary of this deck. Don't underestimate it if you have to play against it at the DLC Vegas. But I think it has a decent matchup against most decks in the meta right now. Like especially against Amber Steel. Like if we're seeing Amber Steel be really popular because of the recent success, a deck that can also play Pete and play it again, multiple times. So you can't sing Whole New World, you can't sing a Storm Rage on Strength, but I can play all my removal songs, but you can't. And sometimes Steel's hardest matchup is other Steel cards, and if you turn off their Steel cards, that's pretty crazy. And then Rabbit Goats, I'm telling you, it's too good.
It really is. Anytime you see Amethyst, there's that core package of Mims and Merlins. But yeah,
Crab
they also
too.
have the and crabs, Mims and Merlins, and they also have the fire, the cannons, and the babooms to take care of the Diablos and
The shift targets, the
Yep.
shift targets you were talking about too earlier. Yeah, you play the removal for those, so it's really really strong. A lot of characters in this deck. I've noticed that there's a lot of characters in this deck, so you don't have a lot of songs, so Ursulas aren't going to really hurt you, like the Ursula Deceiver, or even like something like Bare Necessities. Like you have minimal of those cards, whereas a lot of other decks they play a lot of heavy like non-characters.
Right. Well, let's move on. The rest of the decks that we have are probably considered not top tier, or maybe not even second tier. But let's go and see what we got here. This is the one that you took your fancy for a day and a half, Jared.
Yes. I had to talk about this one.
The Blurple.
Blurple, because this deck is so much fun when it works, because oh my gosh, you just ramp and you ramp hard. Like you can get Mufasa out. Yeah, Mufasa's in this list. You can get him out by turn 5 or 6. But my absolute favorite thing to do was to have do they have Giant Ursula in this list?
They do not.
Doesn't.
Well, anyway, the list that I was playing had the big Ursula in there. So I played on Ursula, and then I played the genie that when exerted, your opponent's characters can exert. And I'd use my Ursula to exert genie when I played them and just lock their board out. Like, it's so much fun. And I don't know why, it's so satisfying to do that. And by that point, you've pretty much won the game.
I like that combo. I've been seeing people do that combo recently too. That's pretty crazy. And if you're playing the 2-drop Ursula, you can shift it, and kind of do it and have it already on board. Ursula Sea Witch Queen is crazy good. Quest for 3, exert any character and just manipulate your genie. Love it.
And turn off your opponent's ability to play songs. Like, it is so, well, not play songs, but to sing songs. Like, it's such a good card.
Yeah, but I think Blurple is just in a weird spot. Just because it has like ramp, just like we said. But the issue is that it doesn't have too much removal. Your removal is very limited to Hades and Let It Go. And on top of that, you have to play a lot of bounce cards, because we were talking about how the Amethyst package is really important. So it takes up a lot of cards in the deck, and then you want to play ramp as well. But you're kind of limited to how much you can play. So that's like the only issue with Blurple, is that you don't have too much removal, so you really have to utilize cards like Elsa, cards like Elsa Fitzspirit, or even be like very, very disciplined with your Yzumas, your Hades, and your Let It Go. So I think it's a good deck. It's just a tough time in the meta, because if your opponent decides, you know what, you don't have a card like Grab Your Swords or Be Prepared, I'm just going to keep playing as many characters as possible because you're taking your time ramping, then that is the big drawback, I think, for a deck like this. And I think you'd have to like really pick and choose, like, am I gonna make this matchup easier or this matchup harder, and maybe just bump up the removal stuff.
Aggro decks tough with this deck.
Yeah, yeah, exactly too. Because yeah, you're spending a lot of time ramping those first couple turns, and like you don't have anything to stop a more than one character at once. So
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on next. And speaking of hyper aggro, here it is.
All right.
yes, this is the deck that nobody wants to play against. Like I think this deck is even scarier than the Emerald Amber discard right now because yeah, sometimes and we're talking about this. Sometimes you could have the perfect hand, but if they have the perfect hand, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. You know, they're gonna have double Daisy, double Lilo, and you can't stop that.
Yeah, it's just it's unfun seeing them flood the board with 2 and 3 lore characters and continue to draw cards.
Especially
Yeah.
when they get befuddle and they take out your early game like defense options. Like at that point, it's pretty much game over.
Yeah.
Yeah, Befuddle kind of is like the salt on the wound for this deck. You know, you start seeing them drop the 1-drops on you, and then you're thinking, "Oh, cool! I opened up my my 1-drops too, so I can contest you." And then they befuddle, and you're like, "Oh, the eye roll." There's the game. There's the game. I do think this deck gets a bad rep, just for the sake of like I feel like a lot of kids play hyper aggro. A lot of new players play hyper aggro, and I think that this deck is good on its own merit. It's just people are very prepared for it right now. We've been focused on how to beat Daisy, how to counter Daisy since the first week the set came out. So by now, a lot of people have stuff in their deck to respect Daisy. People are playing Gastons even because they hate losing to Daisy. So if you are going to play a deck like this, learn your matchups, know how to use your cards, and it's not as easy as it looks. I've definitely don't like playing hyper aggro decks sometimes because there's times where like I'm a little too safe and I don't quest enough, and then I end up losing and I'm at 19 lore, and I'm like, if I just would have just gone for it, I probably would have won, right? And I think it takes a certain type of player to know how to like see your win condition from a mile away when you don't even have the cards in your hand yet. You know what I mean? So in the hands of a really good player, this deck terrifies me, but it does kind of have that reputation of being like, oh, the casual people play this deck, So I know I have friends who think like, oh, is hyper aggro even a real deck? They're all gonna lose to the Amethyst Steel players, and I'm like, nah, dude. Like, trust me, there's gonna be some good people who get paired up against like Sapphire decks, and they're just gonna cook them with Pascals and Daisies,
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Piglet is crazy, and I have a friend playing this deck, and he's playing the amber candle. I forgot what it's called, but it's an item that says banish.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
two cost item inkable. Banish this item. If you control 3 characters or more, you gain 2 lore. So he's playing more copies of Gather Knowledge and Power in his deck.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's a very strong deck. I think it has its place in the meta, especially if people are playing Ruby Sapphire more now because they're trying to hard counter Amber Steel. This deck hard counters Ruby Sapphire. You know what I mean? So if everyone decides to try and big brain it and think I'm gonna take a Sapphire deck because I want to counter Whole New World, it's gonna be they're gonna have a tough time against this.
Yep. Let's hope we see some of that and even things out a bit, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping.
All right, so here comes a deck that kind of has fallen away this set. Not a lot of people playing it. It hasn't been showing up in a lot of top cuts at tournaments over the last month. The good old Blue Steel.
Blue Steel. R&B hasn't made a new list, so nobody's playing it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I like this deck. I've played it before. It's a fun deck. It does a lot of things well. It's just I think what happened is it just didn't get enough to keep up with the other decks.
Yeah, I agree. There wasn't enough good like standalone Sapphire cards other than like Tipo and maybe Chicha to really like add to the power. Vision of the Future is good too. But really the issue is too that like Steel's removal is limited to how much damage it can deal. And like there's just a lot of heavy hitter cards. And if I want to play a deck that's going to ramp into Lucky Dime, maybe I need those heavy hitter cards like Sisu or Be Prepared instead.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not much to say about this one because we're just not seeing it very often, which maybe means that someone's going to bring it and just shock the world with some Blue Steel.
It's a good deck. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a very good deck. It's just I feel like I'm going back to what I was saying. Like, if I'm gonna play Lucky Dime, like, don't I want to play Be Prepared instead? You know, like and then I feel like this has a really tough time against the red blue matchup. And if
Right.
people are expecting red blue, maybe they're afraid to play this deck. But I think there's someone of my locals who plays this deck, and he plays it really well. And he always ends up either getting like top 4 or first place, if anything. So it definitely has its place in the meta.
What do you think about this great stone dragon here?
Love that.
Interesting. There's no fishbone quill in this list, so yeah, I think it's a good alternative. If you're not playing fishbone quill, because you're playing Tippos also, so
And Bell. So you can
yeah.
you can ramp with early with Tipo and Bell, and then late game you can stop inking if you're running low on your hand size, and you can just ink with the Great Stone Dragon.
And if you whole new world, you got characters in your discard for sure.
Yep.
So then you can Great Stone Dragon them every time. So that's kind of nice. I know a lot of people were always playing like at least one in Steel's Blue Steel. And I think it's because you have a lot of early game characters that are meant to contest the board. Like it was either Smees or something, but now you're playing Tippos and Chichas. And yeah, oftentimes you're just kind of contesting the early game. And you can get them back with Great Stone Dragon. So it's really good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the I think we're calling this the Baja Blast around here. The Bluefasa or whatever, Mufasa.
Blue cows.
I like
This is
Clarabelle.
So this deck is also a lot of fun. It's got pieces from other decks that are really good, and you just throw them together and hope for the best.
Well, I was telling Kevin before we started that when set 1 first dropped, I watched a video of somebody who played this deck, and I saw the awesome power of Clarabelle, and I immediately went and bought the rest of my playset of Clarabelles. I was like, this is my deck that I'm going to play. And so I tried running it for a couple weeks. And I think, in the beginning, people didn't realize how good Clarabelle was, so they were caught off guard. And I think that was a big part of the reason why it was so successful. But, I mean, don't get me wrong, Clarabelle's still an amazing card. But this deck, I don't think, like, we have a guy who plays it at our locals, and he does okay, but I don't know if it has what it takes to go all the way in the DLC.
Yeah, the color combination is good. It's just it's also restricted by its inability to kind of keep up with the tempo game with board wipe with the clearing characters. This list in particular by Speci has been very popularized as like the more common list. It plays items, it plays Lucky Dimes, Mufasa, stuff like that. I have seen Earlmeister play a list similar to like a list that I have played in, also promoted on the channel, which is a little bit more tempo based. It doesn't really play too many heavy characters like Mufasa or Cheshire Cat or like the Uninkables. It's more so playing like early game characters, and the idea is that you want to shift your Clarabelle with the 3-drop Clarabelle or something. But either way, like but you have the same problem with both builds is your opponent can go really wide against you, and your only board wipe you have is Under the Sea, but you don't have the amber cards like Kita to manipulate strength in this build to really use Under the Sea to its full potential. Yes, you can use Ice Block, but you're just adding more Uninkables to an already heavy Uninkable deck. Personally, I'm playing Diablo and Cove in my deck and stuff like that. So like usually I'm kind of going like turn 1 Diablo shift, or I'm trying to set up my Diablo shift into like Tipo, and then I'm playing Grandma also. I'm playing Gaston. So I think the deck is good. I wanted to play green blue for the DLC Vegas. It's just my issue with it is that since the meta is so vast, I feel like there's not enough cards in this color combination in this card pool to make a 60 card deck that can handle every obstacle in the meta. So that's kind of my issue. Like there's so many different decks where I feel like, man, I might get blown out by some anti-meta deck because I'm overly prepared for the top 3 meta decks,
Right. All right, and I don't think we have very many left. Let's see what we got next. We've got the good old Ruby Amber Mufasa Roulette. Still hanging around, still doing the same thing it's always done, playing a bunch of characters and seeing what happens.
Yeah, all character decks are definitely good, because you're never gonna get hit by an Ursula or a Bare Necessities, and I think that in itself is a good reason to play one.
Yeah, this one's got the ramping, the amber style of ramping, which is cost reduction. It's got card draw with the Rapunzel and the Stitch. It's got removal with the Hydra and the Maui and the ladies and chairs. It's got that one Chernobog. You always want to throw in that one Chernobog. And I think the new fun thing, besides the Daisy, of course, is that new Wreck-It Ralph that lets you pull a character from discard.
Yeah, and if it's a princess, you gain 2 lore, right?
Yes.
Yep. There you go. Some extra lore burst. Some extra lore burst right there. I like that it's playing Teeth and Ambitions, another way to trigger Rapunzel, so that's always nice too, in this list. But this deck definitely thrives on the ability to not play non-characters, which is really good. So make sure your Mufasa always hits. And then Super Goof. Super Goof, like little by little, has been becoming a much better card. Because you're able to like really quest heavily with a deck like this, because you have Daisy Ducks now, or Flynn Riders. Flynn Riders triggered a lot in this meta, so if you can trigger Flynn Rider a couple times, quest with a couple Daisy Ducks, or even use your Gaston to ramp into a Wreck-It Ralph to gain some extra lore, then that Super Goof can end the game really quickly.
Yeah, it's just card draw is still limited, and you can run out of gas pretty quick.
Yeah, now I want to try this deck. Why do you think they have Teeth and Ambitions?
Teeth and Ambitions, I think, is a really good card right now. I wanted to play it in Ruby Amethyst. I just can't find like the room to fit it in. But it's really good against Amber Steel because it's kind of like a Fire the Cannons, right? That you can sing though, because you'll deal 2 damage to one of their pigs or their Robin Hood Goons, one of their shiftable characters. Against the Ruby Amethyst matchup, oftentimes you can Teeth and Ambitions a Broom or a Chernobog or even something that needs like 1 extra damage, which is pretty good. But one of the cool things too is that you're able to deal 2 damage to one of your characters and heal it with Rapunzel in case you don't have your Mother Gothel or Mulan.
That's fair. That makes sense.
Yep. And then the bottom of the list, which may not be the bottom of the list, who knows? We've got the Ruby Emerald, the Christmas list.
The Robin Hood Christmas.
This is probably a fun deck. I'm sure it's a lot of fun to play. It just looks like it's got a lot of fun cards. But I mean, is it like the spicy list? Is it a good list? Is it going to do well? Who knows? Because have you seen it?
It's so satisfying when that Robin Hood hits.
I really like A Pirate's Life. I think A Pirate's Life is a card that should be explored in the future. Have you guys ever sang A Pirate's Life twice with Ursula Deceiver of All? It's a very good. It's a very good combo. Not playing Ursula Deceiver of All in this list. Personally, this isn't my favorite deck. I feel like if I was going to play this color combination, I don't think I would play the list like this. I'm not a fan of Robin Hood Sharpshooter. It's just one of those cards where, like, I think if I'm playing a big tournament, the last thing I want is to use a card and then that has kind of like RNG, like a dice roll, and then I whiff, like Ariel.
You're going to Vegas. You're coming to Vegas.
Right, exactly. So maybe it is, if you're lucky. Maybe
Roll
it is. Yeah, so that's part of the reason that I wouldn't play it like this, but I think maybe this color combination is slept on. I know that evasive deck was really popular last format. You know what I'm talking about? The aggressive evasive red-green deck, and I think that deck might be even better than this build, for example, because that deck is for sure a threat to a lot of the stuff in the meta, actually.
Yeah. And actually, there was one that I didn't grab a deck list for, but let's talk about it also. It goes along with this, where it's not really just showing up anywhere, and that's the Ruby Steel decks. Those ones tend to be location heavy, built around a little bit around pirates sometimes. But someone at our locals was playing a Ruby Steel on Monday night, and I looked over. I didn't play them, but at one point she had 5 locations on board.
Ooh.
And I'm like, okay, that's crazy.
And then that John Silver just be questing for 6 or something. That's crazy.
Right? Yeah. Oh my goodness. So yeah, it's just decks that just don't have all the pieces yet.
Exactly. It feels like they don't have all the pieces yet. Maybe we'll get more, some heavy pirate support for the Red Steel next set.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah, I think the Red Steel pirate deck is not bad. Regardless of what your opponent's playing, though, guys, don't underestimate like your opponent. Like anybody who's watching, listening to this, like if they're playing Red Steel Pirates and you feel like, oh, I got this in the bag, just
No.
no, yeah, exactly, no. Like play correctly, like make mulligan correctly. Like don't risk any cheese and respect your opponent. You never know. You never know. You might be playing against the champion Red Steel Pirate deck. You just don't know.
All right. I think that's really, I mean, is there any other decks that are out there right now? That's almost every color combination, by the way. I mean, that's so many decks in every color combination is like, okay, that's okay. That could win, right? I mean, that could get close.
Usable. Yep. Every color combination is usable, I think.
Definitely the first 3 or 4 we talked about, I think, have the best chance of taking it all.
Yeah, I think they have the strongest cards, and if not, maybe the most consistent strategies to be able to go through 9 rounds, and then the day two battle royale, because day 2 is crazy. The day 2 really is crazy.
Oh, the dreams of day 2.
And no, it's very possible. Like definitely don't doubt yourself, and nobody should doubt yourself. I feel like if you practice and you have confidence in the strategies that you're executing, then you definitely could get there. So,
I will say this: I've never been so locked in on a tournament before or anything like this. Like, I don't know why, but leading up to this week, it's all I can think about is the deck that I'm going to play, the matches that I'm going to play against, the lines of play that I'm going to play. And like, I just want to eat, sleep, drink it. So, I'm going in with very low expectations, but if I ride the right wave, I would happily ride that wave.
yeah, man. I like to give myself no expectation so that I'm not sad in case anything happens, but like I've had a good time at the last couple of DLCs. I feel like I've been blessed, with awesome journeys and obviously awesome opportunities to play well. And I'll admit there was games that I've played where I thought, how do I win this? There's no way I win this. But I would sit there and think the only way I win this is if I get like super lucky and I draw into this card, this card, this card. And my next 3 draws were those exact cards. And it happens. Like it happens. And whether or not it was deserved or whatever, like sometimes it's just your day. And
it's the heart of the cards.
Yeah, exactly. The heart of the cards. I've heard that from a lot of players. Sometimes it just has to be your day. So yeah, and then I've also seen like some crazy stuff in other card games, like first timers, first tournament ever, take first place, and they're like, "Yep, I play at locals. I've never played a big tournament before, but this is my first big one." So
you're telling me there's a chance?
more than
remember,
a chance.
I obviously didn't do a day 2, but in my first ever, I mean, this is my first TCG. That's the whole like thing from this podcast is our first TCG. Atlanta was my first ever tournament that had more than 53 people, I think, was the largest one I'd been in before at the locals. And I finished 250th. I had 40 points. I felt really good about how I played. And so, yeah, I mean, you can do it. I mean, it just takes playing well, knowing your deck, and just doing what you know how to do. I mean, if you're playing the game, play the game.
All right, James, what are you going to say when I come back here next week having earned 15 points, huh?
Good job. That's 15 more than 0.
Just teasing. I'm hoping for better. Anyway, so we have some other news about what's happening at the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Vegas. And it's pretty cool. I don't think they've done this at any of the other DLCs, but they're having artist signings and meet and greets with the developers. And it's a free ticketed event. As of the time that we're recording this now, those tickets have already been on sale. So
and gone.
They're probably gone by the time you're listening to this.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a cool thing that they're offering to people who are going.
Yeah, I've noticed getting cards signed is extremely popular in Lorcana, and I haven't really experienced that because I didn't really Magic the Gathering. I know it's more popular in that game, but I hadn't really seen it in any other card game. I really like the way Lorcana treats its artists. I think it's really important. I think it's good that they allow them to not only like charge independently on their own for signing stuff, but that they book them for these events too, and like hope they get their money's worth. Because I know a lot of people. There's a huge demand for the signed cards thing, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I might take some extra cards and see what I can get signed, or even by the developers, because I got a goon signed by Steve Warner at D23. Like randomly saw him, and I was like, "Can you sign a goons, please?"
That's awesome.
Nice.
Speaking of which, I can't believe we didn't run into you at D23. Like, it totally blew my mind. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw you guys from a distance. I wasn't there very long. The crowds were just
it was
yeah,
crazy.
it was a lot.
crazy.
It was a lot. So I went Friday. I got the stuff that I needed from the Ravensburg line, and then like I kind of stepped out, and I'm pretty sure I saw one of you, or if not both of you, in the line, and then like it was just such a mess. So I was like, I will come back to see them eventually.
We weren't worth your time. I
don't think anyone.
We'll definitely meet up in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It was yeah, and then being there since 4 a.m, I was like, I think it's time for me to go. And then I went back. I didn't go back Saturday. I went back Sunday, and I just felt like really. I was even tired on Sunday too from that. So it was crazy.
All 3 days, baby. Got to go all 3 days.
Yeah. I had to skip Saturday. I just couldn't make it. But next time I'll go all 3 days for sure. This was my first D23 actually. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then some news that Jared, your boy, getting a little fix going here.
He sounds like he's going to the vet. Yeah. So, do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So he's talking about Oswald, because Oswald's my boy, and apparently they've already made an errata. Like, I don't think that's any big deal. I think the bigger deal is, okay, well, I'll talk about that first. So in the actual card itself, it says that you can play. So Oswald, when you can exert him, or is it whenever you quest? Anyway,
it's just whenever you put a card in your inkwell.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. You can play that item for free, and they enter play exerted, is what the card says on the D23. But in the one that's coming out in this set, it says the item for free and it enters play exerted. So they changed the word they into the word it. So people are like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a price hike. I don't think that's the big deal. I think the bigger deal is that on the original, the D23 one, they've credited one artist. What's his name? Tom Bancroft. Yep. And on the one coming out in set 6, they have 2 artists. So they left one of the artists off of the D23 sets, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. And they already had an issue with the Bruno where they credited the wrong artist. So the D23 set now has 2 errors on it, which is not optimal if you're Ravensburger. For the high value, high profile set has errors in it.
Yeah, it's one of those
problems
things.
Are going to happen. That's the way it is. That's why there's erratas, right?
Yeah, Lorcana is almost known for it by now. At this point, if I feel like maybe it's their way of being nice to collectors, like, hey, look, here's a little error print. Here's a
weird way of being nice.
But the artist one is a little it is crazy, because obviously it sucks for the artist, to not be credited on the D23 one. But maybe that will cause a little bit of a price. Like, I have been seeing the sealed ones already sell for more than 300 this week. Which is a big difference compared to the 100 MSRP.
I've still held on to my sealed ones. Maybe now's the time to sell. Which reminds me, that's another thing you do on your channel is you do market watch. So
yes.
we'll talk about your channel here in just a second. But I will say I did prepare Disney Jeopardy. I prepared it for James because it's Frozen themed. But Kevin, if you're game, I'll ask you, and you can use James as a lifeline if you get stuck.
Yeah, of course. I have seen Frozen. I haven't seen Frozen 2. That's my only one, though.
I don't think any of these are from Frozen 2.
Okay.
But I tried getting some more difficult questions. So here we go.
Uh-oh.
Well, this one, okay. For 100, this is the name of the Troll King who helps heal Anna and provides sage advice to Kristoff.
Grandpappy, right?
There you go. Ding, ding, ding. Okay. For 200, Frozen was inspired by this Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale, though the original story is significantly darker.
Don't know that one. No.
Isn't it the name of one of the sub-names of one of the Elsa cards?
Ooh.
Maybe. I think so. The one from set 1?
I think so.
The Snow Queen?
Boom!
Okay. Yeah, nice. Wow.
Nice.
Thanks.
Okay. For 300, The Frozen creative team brought in this American actress to voice the role of Anna after being impressed by her musical theater background.
Who is it? Is it Kristen Bell?
Oh,
Oh,
three
right.
for
Okay.
three.
Okay. Yeah, nice, nice.
Okay, this one James will get right away. This actor who voices the villain Hans is also known for his role as the Duke of Wesselton in Zootopia.
Not Hans. He doesn't do Hans. He does.
Who does
He
he
does
do?
the Duke and the Duke.
Okay. Oh, yep. You're right. He does the Duke and the Duke.
Oh, okay. He does the Duke of Wesselton and the Duke of Weaseltown.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know the voice actor though, so I'm gonna have to
He
change.
does. He also does Hey Hey, and he did King Candy, and he does what's the goat's name in the new movie Wish. Basically, he does at least one voice in every single Disney movie.
No, okay, no, I did not know that. That's cool.
And
Who is it?
It is Alan Tudyk.
Don't know who that is. That's really cool though. I have seen Wish. I do like the goat's voice. That's wow.
Yep.
That guy does that many different voices.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah, he's even the voice of like a random. Oh wait, he was the bird in Encanto. That the parrot, I think it was, that bugs Mirabelle when she's down looking for the thing. So
That's crazy.
Looking for the thing. Getting
The
real
thing.
technical here. All right,
Yeah.
for 500, this famous song was almost cut from the film because studio executives initially thought it wasn't suitable for Elsa's character arc.
Was it Let It Go? Was that the only
It
song?
was.
Wow, no way.
Yeah,
Wow.
imagine cut that, right?
Could you imagine? That'd be crazy.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it would have saved the earworm for the last decade.
That song, that song is insane though. Like my niece, she loved Frozen growing up, so I had a little 5-year-old in the house screaming at the top of her lungs, "Let it go!"
Sounds about right. All right, well, I'd say that's a solid 4 out of 5. I mean,
that's good.
Alan
Yeah,
Tudyk
that's really good.
was the only one that you really had no idea about, so pretty
Yeah.
good.
I need to brush up on my voice actor lore a little bit.
All right, so with all that being said, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Maybe we should have done this at the beginning, but tell us about Lorcana Goons, where people can find you, all that stuff.
No, yeah. So Lorcana Goons, we are on YouTube. I'm on Twitter too, so you can look it up, Lorcana Goons. We do content on all things Lorcana. We twice a week we do market watch videos where I talk about news, the metagame, and the card prices, and kind of how it all ties together. And then every Thursday we do like our own little podcast called Quest with a Guest. So we just sit down with another Lorcana player and we talk about the competitive game, and then even just play a game either on tabletop or through like a webcam or something. And then I try in between that, I try and do like meta reports and meta stuff. I'm a big competitive player at heart. So I've been playing TCG since I was in high school, and I quit for a long time. My old Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube channel, and then when I tried to come back to Yu-Gi-Oh post-pandemic, it just wasn't the same. And I heard about Lorcana. I got really into it even before the game came out. Like I was mentioning to you, like I followed you guys on Twitter because you guys were one of the few people who were posting about the game before it even came out, right? So like I was hyped. I was there for all the hype. I was there for all the first chapter stuff, and I want to say like when set 2 was announced, I told myself like I really want to make content about this. Like I'm super passionate about this. I want to talk about the game. I was checking TCG Player every day because I wanted to know the prices of what was going on, and I realized that there were so many new players coming into the space that never played a TCG before, and like my brother, he doesn't play TCGs at all, but he would just constantly check eBay and TCG Player, and he's never been into trading card games. He's more of a sports card collector. So I realized there's a lot of people getting into this who don't know what they're getting into, and maybe I can at least just like educate some people on like certain things because TCGs are very different, and then some other hobbies, And I feel like if I had people to show me when I was like back in high school, like, hey, this is what the meta is, and this is what happens when the format changes, or this this is how you should value your cards in your trade binder, or you should be updated on how you value your cards and stuff like that. Little things like that. There's a lot of parents also who are getting into this game with their kids, and I've definitely seen plenty of times where in other games where young people don't know the value of their cards in their binder and they get taken advantage of, or new players, for example. So that's kind of where it came from. I really just wanted to pick up the content creation again, like I did like back in the day, because like video creation has always been a passion, and then that with the addition of like I feel like I know what I'm talking about in the meta space and in like the market space a little bit, because I live in California, so TCGs are huge here. You can I'm blessed to be in a space where you can make a living off trading card games, so I feel like if I can spread that info, then it'll help a lot of people kind of ease into their first trading card game too.
That's awesome. That's all great info, and it's been awesome having you here. You are definitely the perfect guest to break down the meta, and I feel a little more prepared going into Vegas. And hopefully, as you're listening to this episode, getting ready for Vegas or Birmingham, it helps you better understand your matches. So if you liked what you heard, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us on the podcasting platform of your choice. You can find me, like Kevin said, on Twitter at Citizens of Lorcana. And James, where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere at Dan Regal. And just to make sure, everyone can just find you at Lorcana Goons, right? That's all they have to find?
Yeah. Lorcana Goons, and it'll be on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
Okay, just making sure there wasn't anything special we need to do. Just go find the goons.
Yep.
All right. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.